don't be alarmed when you hear me getting a little bit excited, because I love what I do and I love doing what I do for people, the people that I work with. So yeah, let's get started, folks. Thanks again for joining. Let me just get my slides up here. There we go. All right, I'll keep checking in to see if there are any comments, any questions. So you've got pretty much two functionality that you can use. You can either chat, pretty much everybody else can see what you're saying. You can actually direct either to somebody specific, myself in this case, or to everybody else. So feel free to comment, say hi, tell everybody who you are, what you do. You can just text it in, keep it as short as possible. And the Q&A is really functionality that we use when we want to ask questions. So I'll keep checking if there are any questions that people are asking as I'm going through the presentation. However, it's always advisable and more effective if we keep all the questions to the end of the webinar, just obviously so I can cover as much of the content as possible. I do aim to finish all of this content, and it is a lot to cover. So without further ado, let's get started. So yeah, for those who don't know me, I'm KK Diaz. I'm a business strategist. I'm a business coach. I work a lot with companies to help them implement customer success principles. And part of those customer success principles include customer relationship management applications. I'm also an author, and I do some public speaking, not so much motivational speaking. I was telling Anthony the other day that I'm primarily a reason why my clients would need motivation or a shoulder to cry on, because I'm pretty much the reason why they tend to cry, because I'm so hard on them. But anyway, what my company does is we provide business strategies, so business model innovation, strategy development. For some companies, that's all we do. For the rest, we would coach them to help them implement those strategies through coaching, through workshops, training people, through implementing processes and systems. And as mentioned, just briefly, customer success principles include customer experience, CRM, sales training, and so on. We also do websites. Sianda, who's also on the line, is one of the guys who works in that division with us. He is an independent entrepreneur in his own right, but we work together, pretty much like everybody else, really. And we also work with corporates in as far as enterprise and supply development is concerned. And these are some of the companies and partners that we work with. I'm very, very happy and proud to have added Tamara on this list. Tamara is really doing some fantastic, amazing stuff. I will be joining them at Leader X next week, Tuesday. So if you are in Sandton or in the area, come to the Sandton Convention Center, but you have to register first, obviously. I think the tickets are still free for now, if I'm not mistaken. So look up Leader X at Sandton Convention Center, and I will be with Tamara at a stand where we will be not only be giving away chapters of their new book that's coming out, but they'll also be presenting, and I'm going to be with the team there pretty much the rest of the day. So the rest of the other companies, I'm sure you've either seen or heard of, but these are some of the tools and partners that we work with to help our clients. And should you still be asking or wondering if you should be working with us, and why do I feel or believe that I have what it takes to help you, these are just some of the companies that I like to show people, to say, look, we work with multiple different types of companies, and across various industries, across various types and sizes of businesses, and I'll share some of those examples during this conversation. Okay, I'm just checking on. Gaino says she can't hear me. Guys, I hope everybody can hear me. Quentin, thanks for joining. Can you hear me? I hope you can all hear me. I'm just upping my volume. Maybe that'll make a difference. So I'll keep checking the chat to see what people are saying, if there are any questions, or I hope you can hear me. Can you all still hear me? All right, fantastic. Thanks, Quentin. Gaino, maybe just up your volume. It could be that your volume is pretty low. All right, but if you can't hear me, you can't see the screen, please just shout. Quentin says he can't spell. I can see that. You just like me, we rely heavily on a spell check. All right, in continuing on, what I'm going to be sharing with you today, we're going to look at some of the reasons why, companies really miss their sales targets. We're going to look at something called the know, like, and trust factor, and seeing how this affects your marketing and sales. We are going to also unpack and analyze each of the 8 steps of the CRM methodology and consider how you can implement it. I'm also going to share maybe 2 examples on how you can wow your clients, possibly a few more than just 2. And we really are going to look at automation, which is a big thing primarily for small to medium businesses, and seeing how you can implement it. All right, but before I get started, or before I go into the rest of the content, I just want to say that say the following: that what I'm sharing with everyone is really not a get rich quick scheme. You know, this is work that you put in over a series of time in order to obviously get tons and tons of value in the long run. It is simple, but it's not necessarily easy to do. Because people are used to being busy. And this is primarily the reason why it's not easy to do, even though it's simple. People are pretty much used to being busy. And so, you know, sometimes I feel that excuses, or people are allowing other things to come into play that are not as important. And, you know, sometimes I think it's easy for us not to do the important stuff that will give us the value in the long run. So that's one of the reasons why it may not be easy to do, even though it's simple. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to do a webinar on that soon, in terms of helping you become a lot more productive, help you achieve a lot more goals going forward. Because I think we all know what we want to do. It's just sometimes it's difficult to get it done. We also have a lot to cover. So minimize as many of your distractions, primarily all of them, like your phone, social media. Try and avoid multitasking while you're on this webinar, because you are going to miss out. There's going to be so much that I'm covering in the short space of time we have, and trust me, it's also been said that for every task that you add when you multitask, you lose close to 25% or more of your concentration on every task that you add on. So whatever it is that you're adding on, you will not be able to do it effectively. So try and focus as much as possible, and that way you get the most value out of this. And if there are technical drops, i.e. you cannot hear me, you cannot see, just log back in again using the link. Maybe you can just close the application and go back to the link and log back in again. And should I be the one who drops out, because yeah, we did have a few issues this week. So yeah, just give it a few minutes. I will log back on, whether I'm using the Wi-Fi or using my phone as a modem to switch on. I will do that if you do see me dropping out, right? And to everyone, thanks again for joining this webinar. And yeah, I really hope that we can, that you'll have tons of fun. I've shared with you the chat and the Q&A. It's right down at the bottom over here. If you want to say something, just use the chat. There should be a Q&A piece of functionality or button there as well. All right, in continuing, sorry, let me just quickly check if everybody said anything. Hey, Jorgen, it's nice to see you. Thanks for joining us. Sianda, everybody else, again, thanks for being with us. So yeah, in continuing, you know, a lot of us, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business people typically ask themselves these questions, right? Which is, how do you get more clients? You know, how do you get your clients to pay you a little bit more? Because we can always do with a little bit more of revenue and a little bit more of a profit margin as well. And lastly, how do you get the same clients to actually buy more frequently from you? And this webinar is really built and designed to help you answer those questions. Now, about 87% of salespeople and entrepreneurs, you know, really miss their sales targets. And primarily the reason is because sales has changed. It has changed drastically, yet we still tend to use old, outdated ways of selling and marketing ourselves. And these changes are primarily due to technology, the internet, lifestyle. And you might be thinking, but my lifestyle hasn't changed that much. What has been known to have changed in terms of trends around lifestyle is, you know, are things like the instant gratification way of life these days. We tend to have expectations that, you know, we didn't have 10, 20 years ago. And so lifestyles, and therefore how our clients, you know, how quickly they want things, and how much of those things they want has really changed. And a lot of us have not adapted to that. One of the ways is through how we market to those businesses. And if you want to be successful, you know, really you want to learn new ways that take these new changes into consideration. One of my favorite quotes by the now late American writer and futurist Alvin Toffler said that, you know, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn and relearn. And I'm hoping that this is an opportunity for you to learn and to unlearn some of the old stuff that are either keeping you back or are actually stumbling blocks in helping you proceed or go forward. And I remember when I came across this content about 15 years ago, it really changed my life and changed how I see marketing and how, as an individual or as a small team in a business, you can really achieve major goals by applying some of these principles. So typically at this part of the lesson, what I typically ask people is, if you saw this guy, would you buy from him, right? And the reason why I ask this question is because of a couple of things. As human beings, we have a way that we feel towards other people, towards businesses, towards other things. So again, just look at this individual, capture how you feel about him, pay a specific attention to how you feel right now, and ask yourself the question, would I buy from somebody I don't know, somebody I don't like, and possibly somebody I don't trust? And the truth is, or the likelihood is, you wouldn't buy from him. And that is the lesson here. You yourself are also showing up to other people in the same way. You are showing up in front of people for the first time. They don't know who you are. They have no reason to like you and most likely don't trust you, right? But we tend to then expect people to do business with us at that spot when they're meeting us for the first time, when there's a great likelihood that you wouldn't do it if you were in the same position, right? So I really need you to truly capture that. Another quote that I really like is from Zig Ziglar, who said, if people like you, they'll listen to you, but if they trust you, they'll actually do business with you, right? And the whole premise of sales and marketing automation or customer relationship management applications is really to get people to know, like, and trust us so that they can ultimately do business with us, right? This is the know, like, and trust factor that I mentioned earlier. And what does this mean, right? It means every time you and your company's marketing message really comes across a prospective buyer of your product or service, they ask themselves the following questions. They'll ask, who are you? What do you do? And they ask themselves, should they care about you and what you do, right? And if they do care, they'll ask themselves the next question, which is, should they like you? Do they like you? What is it that you have to say that they like? And then lastly, are you an expert? Are you able to help them? And have you actually assisted other people to achieve success or to achieve the goals that they seek in terms of the products and the services that you sell? Excuse me. And when you've answered these questions positively in the minds of your prospects, it's at that point that they'll consider doing business with you. I hope that makes sense. So if it makes sense for you, just click yes in the chat. Just to make sure that that you are still with me and that I am making sense, okay? Because I don't want to just ramble on here and not being sure that I make sense. Fantastic, thanks, Lee. Kano, thank you. Guy, great, thanks, guys. Thanks for the feedback. All right, now, so how do we, obviously the next follow-up question is, so how do we get people to know, like, and trust us, right? And that is pretty much where the next slide comes in, which is, when I came across the answer, it was really a eureka moment for me. It was through this 8-step CRM process that I developed a couple of years ago. I did borrow and steal from a couple of people, put it together. They always say, the good artists borrow, but great artists steal. So I'm proud to say I'm a thief, and I've stolen from the best guys out there. I've put these things together, obviously through experience and through working with all of these companies that I work with. And trust me, I do have permission to be sharing some of these things that I'll be sharing with you, including with some of the clients that I work with. All right, Beulah, it's nice to see you. Martin, great to see you. Martin is somebody else I used to work with. Martin, thanks for joining, bro. So this methodology is really meant to help you to increase the number of customers, to increase the value of the purchases that those customers make with you. And more than that is to help increase the frequency so that they can buy a lot more, right, from you, i.e. repeat purchases. They keep coming back, And I know it looks probably a lot complicated, but It isn't. And part of this webinar is for me to actually unpack this entire methodology for you. And again, this is really about helping you to get your clients to know, like, and trust you, right? Which are pretty much the first 3 to 4 steps, and ultimately to then do business with you. So I'm going to be covering that. The first step is really the more complex one. I'm going to spend a lot more time on the first and the second slide, rather the first and the second steps quite a lot. So, you know, one of the things I mentioned earlier is that lifestyles and trends have changed a lot, right? One of the things that you need to know, and I know a lot of you actually deal with other businesses, so you are more of a business to business client than you are a business to customer type business. However, these principles that I'm going to be sharing with you apply across the spectrum, right? A lot of you, or some people may not know, but your clients are typically 65 to 90% ready to make a purchase before they get in touch with your business, before they literally pick up the phone and call you, or send you an email, or click on that contact form on your website to say, hey, you know, I'd like to do business with you, right? However, what you want to do is to attract and create enough interest in the minds of your prospective clients to come to your business, either through your website or your physical store. And you want to do that early enough in the process so that by the time they get to 65 to 90% ready to buy, that your business is top of mind in terms of, you know, the different options that they believe they have. And how do you do that? You may be asking. We use the step called the entice, right? We literally entice our prospects to a point where we let them know about what we do, how we can possibly help them, and about getting people to see our marketing message so they can get to know who we are. And through the process at which we interact with them, we get them to like us and ultimately to trust us to do business with us. There are many different ways to do that. You literally have a marketing message that you need to market, that you need to share with other people. You have offline and online options, right? The offline options include traditional advertising like television, radio, and print. However, these options can be very expensive and out of reach for most small to medium businesses. And these methods are becoming even more and more expensive and ineffective, even for larger business, right? However, you now have numerous online options which are much more affordable options for most small to medium businesses. These include AdWords, search engine optimization, email marketing, social media, and so forth. So let me clarify something, right? What I'm speaking to here are the platforms through which you can advertise your marketing message, right? Because we need to share a message with the rest of, or rather with our customer base. So what is it that you advertise? Now, in order to entice your target audience, you use something that's called a lead magnet. What is a lead magnet? A lead magnet is something that has high perceived value, right, that can help your prospect to solve a particular problem. A lead magnet is something that your prospects or leads would typically be interested in getting from you, typically for free, in inverted commas, right, but in exchange for providing you with their contact details. And guess what? You guys being on the webinar today is a perfect example of that. Right? You have an issue, you'd like to find out more information in terms of how you can overcome the problem. And so you look on social media, or maybe you've received an email, whatever the case may be, right? And so you jumped on the webinar, you perceive it to be of high value. It costs you close to nothing except for you to provide me with your email address and to spend the time with me here this morning, right? The only reason your customer would be willing to give you their contact details in exchange for your lead magnet, knowing that you'll probably follow up with them afterwards, is because chances are your prospective customers are experiencing a problem and they believe that you can solve their problem. Now, remember, the reason we need this lead magnet is because before customers make a purchase, they will do enough research on their own, right? Through their immediate network as well as through online, and they will do this until they are 65 to 90% ready to make a purchase before they contact you. So in that case, you want to position your company and offering by using your lead magnet. In this instance, you then have a better chance of enticing your prospect to give you their contact details so you can follow up with them and so forth. That is very critical to understand. So some of you may be hearing this concept for the first time and still asking, what is actually a lead magnet? Examples of lead magnets include ebooks, right? You could give away free chapters of a book. You could give away free consultation. It could be a webinar. In this instance, you are actually literally experiencing what a lead magnet in the form of a webinar looks like. You could give software trial versions and demos. You could give away samples of your products. And again, the more physical they are, they typically become a lot more expensive. So the idea of a lead magnet is it shouldn't cost you a lot of money. Okay, it should be enough to be ideally free. You know, something like a webinar, I mean, it costs us a very small amount to host unlimited number of webinars, but literally all it's costing me now is just time to spend with my prospective customers. There's just over 20 people. There's 20 people right now on this call, and you know, everybody is doing it at their convenience. So again, this webinar is a lead magnet. When you have a problem you're experiencing related to sales and marketing, you want to learn about it, and so you've joined this webinar. Now, in order to entice a good number of leads, this is you, right? You then need a lead magnet to address a problem that most of your prospective clients experience. Let me think of some of the examples. Sianda, I know Sianda, one of the things that he does is he helps people who want to invest in property to to invest in very specific properties. So he would help them identify problems that these people may want to avoid when you are investing in property. I've got a few more examples that I'll show you, but what you need is that your prospects are always looking for a way to solve their problem, and using a lead magnet is a great way to get them to discover you as someone or as a company that can provide a practical solution to that problem. And the idea of using a lead magnet is to start small, right? When you are starting for the first time using a lead magnet, you want to start small and actually grow from there. Use one lead magnet to start off, focusing on solving one particular problem. In our instance, you know, we've got CRM, we've got sales and marketing, we've got next week we're actually doing another webinar on how you can implement business processes in your business. So all I'm saying is start small, start with one lead magnet. It could be an ebook, it could be a webinar, it could be free software, whatever the case may be. Right. Some examples of titles. So what I'm showing you next are titles that you use to entice your customers so that they can then give you their contact details, right? As mentioned in the previous slides, your lead magnets must ideally be educational, right? So if you look on the screen, your prospects might get to know you. They need to get to know you as an expert. So I have an HR company as one of our clients. They have a lead magnet with the following title, right? They tell you about 3 things that you shouldn't do when you're hiring staff. Now, if you're a business owner that's looking to hire someone, I'm sure there are mistakes that you want to avoid, right? So this is typically or potentially something that could entice you to want to know more about that. And let me also explain that there are typically 2 types of lead magnets, not examples. So you'd have lead magnets that help clients to avoid mistakes, right? And then on the next slide, I'm going to share with you the other types of lead magnets, which are the type of lead magnets that help people to achieve goals, i.e., you know, they're more aspirational. It'll make sense just now when I get to the next slide. Another example, if you're an accountant, you could do a lead magnet that's either a webinar or an ebook or a course, a short course online around something that businesses need to know about an accountant before they choose one, right? Again, something that Sia could potentially use are mistakes that first-time home buyers make and how to avoid them. So you can imagine that if a client or prospect is looking to buy a house for the first time and they come across a marketing message of this nature, you know, looking at mistakes that they could potentially make, and a lead magnet could help them to avoid those mistakes, it's something that most likely be interested in. Other lead magnets, for example, are online courses. I'm sure you've come across one of those email-based online courses where they'll send you a video a day for about a week, sometimes just 3 days or whatever the case may be. And these are potentially used to educate prospective and existing clients. Another set of lead magnets, right? I know Gano is one of the partners at Distinctive Designs. I'm actually working with them to help them implement the, to optimize their CRM using these concepts. One of the lead magnets that they're working on now is to help prospective clients to transform their workplace for productivity and their home for serenity. So imagine if you're somebody who's looking to improve productivity at work, and you come across a lead magnet that says, hey, click here or download this lead magnet in order to see how you can potentially increase productivity by transforming your workplace. There's also the same accountant that I mentioned earlier. They can help businesses to save thousands of rands when submitting their income taxes. Some people, one of our other clients is Air Fashion. Air Fashion provides, so their value proposition is that they help women to gain a sense of power in the way that they dress. They are a fashion-based business, and one of the lead magnets that they use is they literally pick up the phone and call businesses that have a certain number of staff, and they will provide a free fashion and personal branding workshop. Again, that's a lead magnet. And the whole purpose of the lead magnet is if you allow us to come to your business to do a workshop, we'll help your people to gain a sense of power, to gain more confidence. And we know when our staff and our teams are more confident, they'll be a lot more productive. So I hope you're getting the concept of what a lead magnet is. It's meant to help you to help your clients rather to overcome a problem, or at least you are informing them, enticing them to, at least trust and believe that you are the person or the company that can help them to overcome their problem. I hope I'm making sense. I'm going to continue to show you examples of this, and then we're going to cover the rest of the slides. I hope you're still with me. So, hi, Hanita. You're saying if you're running a function venue, what sort of lead magnets can you use? Great question. It's great to have you on. Hanita, one of the things that you could do really is so think about who hosts events, functions, right? It's typically event organizers who, one of the biggest problems is ensuring that they get prepared on time, that they not only host the webinar timelessly and that it's professional, however, that they cover as many of their costs as possible without actually exceeding a budget. So think about somebody who wants to host a webinar, or rather a venue, a function at a beautiful venue like the one you have, which I love very much. So think about the problems that they experience. There's typically 3, 5, maybe even up to 10 problems that somebody who's wanting to host a venue, or rather host an event, could potentially be experiencing. Your lead magnet can be an ebook. It can be a video where you go through covering these potential challenges that somebody who's hosting an event for the first time, or maybe they host a venue, or they host events that don't necessarily translate into action for the people who are attending, which I know happens quite a lot. So you actually have a few examples that you could work off, and I'd be more than happy to speak to you afterwards, and it's only a pleasure. Great. So yeah, I was mentioning that Tamara is at LeaderX next week. We will be giving away a few chapters of one of the new books that's coming out. So let me try and encapsulate this. Tamara really helps companies like yours and large businesses as well to innovate and to develop products that are a must-have. Right. That's all I'm going to say. Now, imagine being a company that everybody considers to be a must-have, right? Apple being one of them. There are a few other companies out there, and you've seen how large these businesses truly become. There are some interesting companies that we're working with locally, really, that are going to, to amaze people out there, that are going to disrupt industries. So if you are a company that wants to disrupt your industry and you want to become a R1 billion plus annual turnover company, do get in touch with us. Get in touch with Tamara. Anthony's also on the call. So yeah, do come to LeaderX. As I mentioned earlier, I believe the tickets are still free. All right, I'm just quickly checking to see if anybody else is saying. Makhrit, hi, it's nice to see you. In networking, marketing lead magnets will be samples of business or presentation. Perfect, exactly. Another question, let me just quickly check. Lesejo, hi, it's great to see you. You say, must you always use lead magnets for each and every prospective client? Look, ideally, you want to do that. I think, and that's a very great question. What you want to do is you want to ensure that you leave no room for prospective clients wondering if you're the right person. So whether it's an existing client, whether it's a prospective client, for prospective clients especially, you want to give them as many, or rather the lead magnet that speaks to the problem that they're experiencing. But like I said, start with one. It's really good enough to start with one, and you get to see how they perceive it, how they interact with your lead magnet. All right, we're going to move on now. Again, I'm going to show you some of these examples that I spoke of earlier. Air Fashion has the 7 keys of power dressing. It's also a lead magnet that you download. Basically, they teach you these principles or methods on how you can dress for power at work, etc., etc. Distinctive design, I mentioned, they're in the process of putting together a lead magnet that's going to help businesses and homeowners to transform their spaces so that they can have a lot more peace, a lot more serenity at work and at the workplace and at home, and to become a lot more productive at work. And you may be thinking, but these are examples for small businesses. If you look on the slide, you'll see that Sage, a multi-billion rand company, really also gives away free software, right? If you look at the bottom, the pink and the green, the blue buttons at the bottom, those are buttons that give you access to 30 days, 60 days worth of demos and trial of software. Again, they will help you to better administer your finances or your payroll. These are used as lead magnets. It's a way to entice them. Another example that I really love is Vespa. Vespa, they sell their bikes, I think 150,000 rand plus. So this is a high price ticket item. Even they use lead magnets, and their lead magnet is they will teach you how to ride a bike on a Saturday. They'll give you breakfast, etc., etc. You can bring a loved one, or you can come by yourself, and they'll really teach you how to ride a bike. That's their lead magnet. Hopefully, once you've learned how to ride a bike, how to ride a Vespa, then the next likelihood is that you'll probably start investing in one, right? So again, these are just examples. Now, one of the companies that really got me last year was Netflix. I'm sure you've seen the Netflix 1 month free trial that you use. I think, Amazon Prime uses this, and a bunch more other large businesses. So this is not just for play businesses. This is not for small businesses. Big businesses out there are using lead magnets to actually get, to entice their prospective clients. And sometimes, like I said, it's about giving away vouchers, specials, and so forth, or samples of your products. Step number two. Step number two is when you entice someone and you want to give them something, don't just give them something and let them walk away without you having an ability to actually get in touch with them and to follow up with them. So the next step, as obvious as it is, we highlighted here because a lot of people actually forget. For example, one of our clients, Knox, who's also in fashion, he designs beautiful shoes. This week we went to Sandton City, to check out his competition, and we walked into about 5 stores. And we spent between 5 to 10 minutes in each one of these stores, and all the people asked was, can they help us? And when we said, no, we're good, we're just looking around. Even though we were clearly having conversations around their products and the clothing pieces, whether it was shoes or jackets or whatever the case may be, none of them came to say, hey, are you interested in this? And would you be interested in something else? Here's a lead magnet we can give you. If you can just give us your email address or your phone number, we'll be able to contact you around this. Now, we went into the store. There's 4 guys. Clearly, if you can convince us to either buy suits or to buy something, there's a likelihood of 4 different sales that one could get. And you can do that through a lead magnet. So again, I'm just raising or bringing up the issue of signing people up. If somebody comes into your store, even if they're just asking, or they call you on the phone to ask you for a price for something, always make sure you get their contact details. Even if the question they're asking really doesn't speak to making a purchase, make sure that you can ask them if you can take their details. But remember, they will, in almost all cases, they will only give you their contact details if there's something in it for them. So maybe you can say on the phone, hey, I'd really like to send you this ebook or something that can help you solve a particular problem. So how do you sign people up? You use forms on your website, on landing pages. Most businesses who have websites would typically have the contact us page on their website, so use that. Use your phone. If you're out there networking and you come across somebody who's looking to solve a problem that you can solve, take their details, obviously either through a business card or using your phone to simply take their name, phone number, and email address, and then you can send them your lead magnet. Always try and not jump straight to the sale. Nurture that sale, get them to know who you are, get them to like you, to trust you, and then you can make the sale later. So again, just using your phone or using a notebook to take somebody's email address down is a simple way of starting the process. Some people will typically have events, and it's about having that registration form that you can complete, that people can complete, and you can follow up and send them your lead magnet after that. Always try and use a lead magnet before, or rather to start the conversation, so that you don't overdo it trying to sell them, the first time. Remember what we said earlier. If you show up as somebody who just wants to sell, people will really put up that defense and not necessarily be interested in continuing to speak or to engage with you. Yes, Makrit says establish rapport. Thank you for that. It really is about that. It's about getting people to know, like, and trust you before they can buy from you. All right, in continuing on, some online forms that you would use literally would have something called a landing page. Now, a landing page is where people go once they've seen what they can do with, or rather what they can get out of your lead magnet. And in order for them to get that lead magnet, typically you want to have a form that's got as few details that you require from them as possible. Sometimes it's just as simple as an email address. Again, all you want to do is just to ask them as little information as possible, so that they don't have a reason or feel threatened to give you too much information in accessing your lead magnet. Again, these are examples. And as you look at these things, you'll see that there are some tricks that people use. For example, if you look at this lady where she's looking at the form, and psychologically what this does is it actually draws your attention to fill in that form. And then they'll typically use things like social proof to show that they've worked with other companies, and therefore the lead magnet that you typically get from them is something that you can get a lot of value from. So that's step 2. First step, you entice them. Second step is you sign them up, i.e. get their contact details. And step 3, you have to nurture that relationship. So what do you do with these leads once you've captured them or once you've signed them up? Most small business people will contact their leads twice, maybe thrice, and then stop trying after some time. And this is why most small to medium businesses don't close enough sales. They do all the hard work to get somebody interested in their offering, to capture their leads' contact details, and pretty much throw it all away by not doing what's necessary to properly nurture those leads. That lead is actually a sales opportunity that will disappear and completely forget all about you if you don't nurture it. So you have leads. Now, what do you do? You follow up with them, right? Lead nurturing is really the process of building great relationships with prospective buyers at every stage of the sales funnel and the buying journey. Lead nurturing is really about focusing on educating qualified leads who are not yet ready to buy from you. And you nurture by answering questions that they may have, as well as continuing to provide them with content that's valuable enough to keep them engaged, and ensuring that the day that they are ready to buy, right, that you will be top of mind. Remember what we said, people typically buy when they are 65, or rather will contact you and become 65 to 90% ready before they make the purchase. And again, you want to position yourself such that you are top of mind when they are ready to make that purchase. A lot of people are very uncomfortable. Business owners and salespeople are very uncomfortable about the idea of following up. If you look at the stats on the screen right now, it says only about 2% of sales really close on the first call, right? If you look at the last point, 81% of sales will close after the 7th call. And 7th call will mean the 7th contact, the 7th time that you interact or speak to the client. And what this really means is that most people are wasting or throwing away their hot leads because they will typically quit after the first call or the second call. I mean, look at that, 48, close to half of the or rather salespeople and entrepreneurs, half of the leads that they speak to, or prospective clients, half of them, they'll only speak to them once, right? And if you look at that last point, it's really that last 10% that typically will get the type of leads or close those leads at that point. I'm just going to quickly look at my chat and Q&As to see that I'm really up covering as many of these questions. So Henry, sign up would then mean start to build a relationship 100%, because you can't really build a relationship when you don't know how to contact somebody, right? So you sign them up, you either ask them for their email address or you ask them for a phone number. And remember, the more personal the information you ask, the slightly harder it will be to get that information, unless if, of course, your lead magnet is of such great value that clients don't feel, hey, if I give this person a phone number, they're going to do this and that with my phone number. But if it's perceived to be of high value, they'll definitely give you that number. All right. Just checking Q&A again. All right, that's been answered. All right, great. In continuing, so why do you need to follow up so much? The truth is because people are busy. I mean, I'm very surprised to have some of you on this webinar because I know you busy people. And sometimes what we do as salespeople, entrepreneurs, and we give up too easily. We give up too soon in trying to nurture that relationship because we forget that people are just as busy as we are. Something else that you need to know about following up and nurturing relationship is that it's been researched that if you take too long, right, to get back to somebody when they have a question or a problem, if you take too long, let's say you take 10 minutes and somebody's on the phone or trying to get a hold of you or whatever the case may be, the likelihood of them doing business with you drops by up to over 10 times over a very short space of time. Now, why am I bringing this up? I'm going to start talking to you about the idea of automation. And this is one of the reasons why we want to implement automation, because if we don't, our leads then become less and less interested in working with us. Some other important stats. So almost 80% of new leads, they never become sales, at least not immediately. This is why you need to nurture those relationships, right? And nurtured leads make 47% larger purchases than non-nurtured leads. Remember what we said, we want to increase the value of the purchases that people make from you. When you nurture that relationship, people will trust you more, and then they're in a position to actually spend a lot more money with you. And then another reason why you need to nurture, 67% of prospective buyers that tell you that they're not ready to buy from you today, they'll typically buy in the next year. And I have seen this last point too many times to forget about it. But 80% of leads that you consider to be dead, i.e. they'll never buy from you, will typically buy from you in 2 years. And some of us, I know some of the people on this webinar today, sell high price ticket items where somebody will take a year, in some cases 2 years, to actually make that decision. So that's another reason why you want to make sure that you nurture that relationship. And the cost of not nurturing relationships is, out of all the leads that you generate, you'll typically end up closing about only 10% of them. And because the rest of them would go to the competition or go to a company that's actually nurturing that relationship. So how do you solve this problem of nurturing and following up? Is you create valuable content. You don't stop at that lead magnet. Now, typically, once you've highlighted a couple of problems that people experience in a particular problem, whether that's sales, that's marketing, you want to continue giving them more and more information in terms of how they can solve that problem, obviously until they are ready. And you want to automate that process so you don't have to constantly do it manually. And it's about implementing a mechanism that will help to respond immediately. Folks, remember, this is about getting our clients to know, to like, and trust us. What we want to focus on is creating that trust. And you don't create trust just once off. It's really by nurturing that relationship and getting people to trust you. And it's about using automation, like I said earlier. I know some businesses or some entrepreneurs would think, you know what, we're too small to bother with automation. I remember back in the day when email came out for the first time, you had millions of people thinking that they're not ready for email. Email is too big for them. But look at where we are today. And again, it's because trends have changed. Email is like a standard, right? So consider that example. Today, automation is a standard in business. You are already using automation in some areas of your business, and you are truly enjoying benefits. All I'm saying is consider automation for sales and marketing as well, because it'll help you to get a lot more leads, to nurture a lot more of those leads, and ultimately to be able to close a lot of them. And it also doesn't matter what type of business you're in. Take Lee, for example. She works with fathers. She helps fathers to access rights, and I know some of you would have either experienced this in one way or another, where some of the relationships that have fallen off, fathers and kids are unfortunately alienated from each other. That's what she does. Even someone like her uses automation. Whether you are investments, whether you are in interior decor, whether you are in helping companies to innovate their business models, whatever the case is, it really doesn't matter what type of business you're in. Automation is really the key, because it allows you to engage a lot more people more often, and it allows the business to reduce the costs of communicating with those existing and future clients. So there's something also called lead scoring. when you use these fancy systems for automation, for example, Infusionsoft, it is one of the more expensive type applications. It will really create, it'll help you identify which leads are interacting a lot more with your company, with your content, whether they come onto your website, whether they are reading your lead magnets, and so forth. It'll literally give them a score. And those leads that score higher are clearly the opportunities that you should be chasing more of. So again, this is one of the reasons why you want to nurture and you want to measure and monitor the level at which, you know, the leads that you are nurturing, how they interact with you. When you have leads, which opportunities really you focus on closing really depend on how well they perceive the value that you provide. And a great way of doing this is using, like I said, lead scoring. So some CRM systems that we help our clients to purchase, or rather that you can go out there to find yourself, including one like called SharpSpring, a Blue Wave. A lot of people don't know this. Blue Wave is a locally developed CRM system. And I do want to make, or rather to clarify something. There's a huge difference between a CRM, a traditional CRM system, and a CRM system that has the ability to automate processes and to automate sales and marketing. So if somebody says, hey, they have a CRM system, please make sure to always check if that CRM has the ability to automate sales and marketing. There's tons of free software out there. I know HubSpot has got a free CRM application. There are a few other CRM applications, but all they are tools and systems that help you to monitor and manage, or rather just manage your sales pipeline. They don't do all the fancy automation stuff. So you then get applications like Infusionsoft, very beautiful application, one of the more expensive, but it's really worth its money. You also get MailChimp. MailChimp is free for up to 2,000 people. And MailChimp is not a CRM system. What it is it's more of an email and marketing platform, which helps you to send out emails, to automate emails. They recently added a landing page, meaning when you have a lead magnet, you have to put that lead magnet on a page somewhere where people can access it. Once they've downloaded that lead magnet, MailChimp is then able to automate those follow-up emails that nurture the relationship without you having to do much else manually. And obviously, depending on how your leads behave and interact with that content, that you can either manually respond or whatever the case may be. There are two other applications that I really like. Another one is called GetResponse. It's one of the world's, it's known to be the easiest email marketing applications, but it doesn't have a CRM component, right? Remember, when you are looking for these systems, always ask yourself, is it a CRM? Is it automation, etc., etc.? Another one is Campaign Monitor. So moving along, I think we're all familiar with the idea of proposing. You know, depending on how people or leads interact with your content, one of those emails that you send out has to be one that proposes, or, you know, tries at least to sell a product or a service based on the lead magnet that your client has downloaded or has accessed. For example, I'm in a position to, because you've come onto this webinar, the chances are you do need to solve problems that are related to sales and marketing. So I think it's only fair that I give you an opportunity to see the options that you have in terms of how you can actually solve those problems. And again, depending on the client's pain point and how they initially contacted you and how they've interacted with you, you can now make an offer, right? And some of those offers are known to be a tripwire. I know Lee likes the idea of tripwire a lot. But a tripwire is really a small item that you sell to someone preceding the big items that you may be selling. And one of the reasons you do this is because you want to get them to commit, you know, you want to get them to trust. And if somebody has bought something small from you, there's a great likelihood that they'll buy something big from you. So these are some of the small things that you can then automate and propose in your email marketing platform. I don't want to spend too much time on this tripwire. There's a lot more information. If you need it, I'd be more than happy to share with you. Again, you know, I think a lot of companies don't realize that you can literally automate this entire process. You can automate up to a point where you close a client using just email communication without even before getting on the phone, etc., etc. So you can really use CRM and marketing automation or email automation to actually propose and close. Again, this is one of those very simple and easy to understand processes. It's very obvious also to collect the money once you've closed, but some people actually, forget to have a process in place for that. So some sellers will typically request a deposit or all the money up front. And remember, you want to create a static process, automated that is, that'll make following up on things like confirming payments easy for you and your clients. For example, ask the clients in an email to send you proof of payment once a payment has been made. These are some of the things that you can communicate in those emails that you are automating out. Step 7, when you deliver, this is one of those places where that will determine if you'll ever get another sale from the same client in the future, right? We always recommend that you pull out all the stops here in delivering your service to the client. Your delivery of your service or your product is still a way in which you can market yourself, right? Because the thing is, competition out there is severe, and your competitors are pulling out all the stops to ensure that they lure and keep your customers. You want to be able to do the same. This means that you need to differentiate yourself in the minds and the hearts of your customers so that they return to do more business with you. Some people would have probably heard me speak of Mount Sheba. Now, Mount Sheba's got a great example. I love to use this example because it literally makes sense. Now, a few years ago, I visited Mount Sheba, and anyone who's been there, they'll tell you when you get up to Mount Sheba, there's a drive up the mountain, right, which is very, very much gravel and dusty. So when we arrived to check in, we did what we needed to do to check in, and we parked the car. And the nice thing was the following day when we got up, I was so pleasantly impressed to find that the car was washed. It was clean, no trace of dust. And I thought, wow, right? It was such a great experience that I continue to share this very little act that has impressed me and has pleased me. And, it reminds me of how simple, small things can really help to wow your customers. Now, that cost them close to nothing but a bucket of water and a few minutes effort to wash the car, right? And the beauty of it is that I didn't even get to see them wash the car. So I was very much pleasantly surprised and felt and experienced a wow moment as a client when I experienced this. And you know what? More than 5 years later, I still tell that same story to a lot of people. And that's an example right there for you that what are some of the small things that you can do in your business that will get people to experience a wow moment? So another example is actually Annual Chats. Annual Chats sells cars. To be honest with you, I'm very unhappy with this company right now. But one of the nicest things that they did was a few years ago, I arrived at their store to book in the car for a service. And you would typically find a coffee station with just coffee and tea. But what they did that I really, really like, because they know that people come in very early in the morning to drop off their cars for service. They had things like 2-minute noodles, jungle oats, cup of soup. I thought that was so impressive, so much so that I literally took pictures and I shared it on Facebook. And while I was sitting down for a cup of coffee, an omelette arrived. I really felt like I was being treated like a king. So, and these are small things, tiny little things that people will continue to feel to be wowed by your business, and they'll continue to tell other people about that experience. So if you want to wow your customers, it's really about focusing on that very first client experience, like it's like being on a first date. Some of you will remember this. Really users is it's almost like dating. And existing users like marriage. And obviously, in order for that marriage to be long lasting or that relationship to be long lasting, you want to nurture and to continue to wow each other as much as you can. I'm just going to quickly check the chat box. We are only a few minutes away. So Henry she says that Take a Lot is a good example of using convenient ways of payment. Perfect. Exactly. That's another way that people or customers will typically come back from you. It's because you make it easy for them to buy from you. Again, all of those touch points are really a branding experience, and branding is really about the experiences that you create. They enable you to continue to market your business much more effectively. And other ways to wow your clients or to deliver a wow experience, always offer a solution when your clients have a problem, right? Get your response time down. When people ask you for questions or they send emails and so forth, do come back to them very quickly. And add a little bit of personality, right? I think we are very much bored with, with very stiff companies that have no personality. If you want to wow your clients and deliver a wow experience, do add some personality, be who you are. And this is one thing that's very controversial, which is giving refunds to people when they want it. Trust me, you don't want to have an upset client. You'd rather give that refund if you can, or provide something in exchange of similar value if obviously giving them the money is more experience, but it does provide a great experience. And also do something that's unexpected. Think outside the box. For example, add an extra an extra unit. If they've purchased 10, give them one. Let them discover it when they do open that package. When you promise people to deliver in 10 days, deliver it in 6 or 7 days. Again, those are small little things that provide that wow experience. Lastly, the last step is really about surveying and finding out if your clients are happy. Obviously, if your clients are not happy, you want to make sure that you make them happy so that they can come back, right? And the only way to do that is to ask them. So sometimes we do forget, and this is why we have automation. You want to automate and ask people, your leads and your clients who purchase from you, if they're happy. Again, if they're not happy, find a way of doing that. You've probably seen something called a Net Promoter Score, where they'll ask you questions like, what is the likelihood that you'll purchase from us again in the future? Would you recommend other people, and so forth. So step 8.2, we also forget to ask testimonials. This is something that I think I've developed into as part of my DNA, really. Ask your clients for testimonials, but the reason why we mention it here, it's one of those things that you can automate as part of your marketing automation, because folks, we are all busy and we do forget. The idea of having a CRM and a marketing automation tool is to help you to not have to remember all the things. Simply an email will be sent out to a client and to you, or to you, to remind you to ask the client for a testimonial. And also based on your interactions and based on what a client would have purchased, a CRM or an automated system can really help you to remind you again to sell a client the next level product up, a subscription-based product, whatever the case may be. And also you can ask for referrals. These are all the things that we tend to forget. Marketing automation can really help you to achieve that. So I had promised you that I would keep to an hour. We have maybe 2 minutes, right? But in a nutshell, folks, this is really the 8-step sales process. And I hope you can understand and appreciate that it was just for an hour. During a full day workshop or when we do consulting and training on a one-on-one, we go into a lot more detail and we help you to customize the application of the system. I hope you've had tons of value, that you've learned a lot from this webinar. And if you have questions, I'm going to stick around for the next 5, maybe 10 minutes. If you still have questions, I'd be more than happy to answer those questions. But in closing, I did mention that I wanted to give you an opportunity to be able to solve these problems yourself, or to take this to the next level. And again, just in closing, really the advantages that you'll gain, you'll be able to convert a lot more clients. You'll be able to attract a lot more leads using lead magnets and so forth. So we have companies or clients like Air Fashion and the Da Vinci Institute, as well as Distinctive Designs, who are also on the call. These are some of the people that we are helping in terms of implementing CRM systems and to automate their sales and marketing. So how can you implement, right? I'm not going to ask you to give away your firstborn child, okay? If you want a CRM system and to automate your sales and marketing, you don't have to sacrifice your life savings. I'm not going to ask you to go to Mars in order to qualify for a CRM system. It's really easy, right? This is something that's going to help you to get more clients, to create great customer relationships, and to enable you to reach and help a lot more people, and to ultimately generate the kind of revenue that you desire, right? If you're curious, interested, and intrigued, we can help. There are 2 ways in which we can help. We are certified resellers of MailChimp and SharpSpring, but like I said earlier, MailChimp is really for free. So if you have under 2,000 people that are on your database and you want to start marketing and so forth, you can go ahead and subscribe to MailChimp for free. But if you'd like somebody to help you implement, we've got an offer that we, or rather a training and an implementation that we do for MailChimp. It's a $5,000 Rand once-off fee. For half a day, will help you to implement these principles, obviously up to a certain level. And obviously the benefits is you working with an expert, somebody who knows what they're doing, will help you to minimize the anxiety and the time that it would take you to start benefiting. It is free. You don't have to pay us, but if you'd like us to help you to shorten the time it will take you to implement, we're here to help. SharpSpring, on the other hand, is slightly more expensive because it handles a lot more complex stuff. So it costs close to 3,500 Rand, sometimes more, per month, right? And there's a training and a setup fee that starts at 9,999. That 9,999 is a once-off setup fee. We'd be more than happy to give you a payment plan for that. But the start is really for us to have a conversation, look at what you'd like to implement, what your budget is, what your objectives are, how many leads you'd like to generate, and how much revenue you'd like to generate at the end of the month or at the end of the year. And we can help you to choose the right software system and to implement those principles. So without taking any much more of your time, thank you again for being part of this webinar. I'm going to stick around for a few more minutes. And if you'd like to get in touch, do email me, do WhatsApp me. You've got my contact details. I've been sending you emails, simply reply, get in touch. I'd be more than happy to have an obligation-free discussion with you in terms of seeing how we can help you to increase your leads, to get your leads to buy a lot more from you, and obviously for them to return. Folks, thanks again. If you feel that you need to get to the next thing today, do feel free to do so. Thanks again to everybody who's attended and the questions. Quentin, thanks. He says, well presented, good stuff. Thank you for that, Quentin. Beulah, I appreciate it. She says, I'm amazing, I'm the next level. I would like to help you guys to be amazing, to get to the next level as well. So get in touch. I'd be more than happy to chat. Thanks again. Martin, it's only a pleasure, bro. To everybody else on the call, I really appreciate it. Henry, Magritte, Beulah, yeah, Anthony, Gano, and everybody else. Guy, again, it's pretty cool to see you on this call after so many years. Let's get in touch, even if it's just for coffee. I'd really appreciate that. Don't forget, guys, Tamara is at Leader X next week, Tuesday. It's going to be a phenomenal day. Tamara is launching their new brand. It's really a company that's doing some amazing stuff. Trust me, if you ever want to build a kind of business that generates R1 billion plus annual turnover, you want to be there, and we'll show you exactly how. Anthony says it's a well-spent hour. Guys, I appreciate that. Kano, it's a pleasure. We will be chatting soon. Please, can you send me the details of the venue person? Yes, I will do that. That's Hanita. Beautiful venue. I will make sure to send you that information. Sianda, it's a pleasure, bro. Thanks. I do owe you a conversation. I will be getting in touch with you later today. Andre, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining, bro. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you got lots of value from this time. Folks, don't let me keep you. The last thing I just want to repeat and say, if you ever need to implement any of these principles in your business, feel free to get in touch. Yeah, and I should have recorded. I think the system does an automatic recording of this webinar. If you want to see it again, just let me know and I'll send you the link. All right, cheers. In case you're wondering, I'm not in my pajamas, okay? Yeah, thanks again to everyone for joining. Chat to you soon. Hey, Michael and Moses, I see you had joined us. It's nice to have had you guys on board. All right, cheers, guys. Thank you.